So last week, I celebrated my 4th wedding anniversary. Now, it was lovely, all the things you want a wedding anniversary to be, but interestingly enough, when I was prepping for the sermon, it was actually my first marriage, this is my second one, that I kept thinking about, which is, awkward at best. But I kept thinking about it because of this line in this gospel passage, this one about the one who loves his life will lose it, and the one who hates their life in this world will keep it. Now, before I understood this passage, it's actually one that I've always kind of liked, and I've understood it in its kind of, theoretically and metaphorically, it's about self-sacrifice and that we have to give things up for other people, and it's about service, and it's even about, not connecting too much with just the things of this world. But this thing about God wants us to hate our life, right? And I think to myself, well, there's something that I'm obviously missing the boat. That just doesn't sound like the God I know. And so 7 years now, actually, into this relationship, 4 of them married, with 3 kids on board that aren't mine naturally, I have a new way of understanding this passage. Because I've come to believe that it is actually more basic. I believe in something more basic. It's something that has to come first before all those other things I used to think this was about. Before the self-sacrifice and before the, giving things up for the good of the whole and all of those things. That there's something else that has to come first that's much more personal, at least to me, that makes all of those other things possible, that makes it even possible for me to participate in the creating of the reign of God. So this grain of wheat, as I indicated in the children's sermon, I've come to believe is a conversation about what's really at our core, what's really fundamentally inside of us. This grain of wheat, this thing that's inside of us, is like this absolutely perfect reflection of the divine. We all have it. It is the gift of our birth. It is our birthright. It is the thing that makes us most like God at our core. But the thing happens, human life is complicated. And something happens, I think, to everyone, and I certainly know it did to me, that something happens as we move through life, that thing that we knew, that perfect, innocent, amazing human that we were, gets buried somewhere. It gets covered up. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but I do think it happens pretty much to all of us, and this thing kind of hardens us over a little bit. For some of us, it hardens us a lot. It is the way that we learned as children to protect ourselves, to defend ourselves, to stay safe. It is really the way we built our personality, not even trying, the way we've constructed our ego, how we move in the world. For so many of us, certainly for me, that has really just been this hard covering of what's really there. The true self of who I am as a creature of my Creator. Now for me, as I was growing up, my hard shell happened pretty early, and my hard shell was put together to keep me from feeling vulnerable, because that was the thing I was most afraid of. But we all have something when we're smaller and as we're moving through life that we are afraid of, that really is the thing that this shell becomes made of. For some of us, it's our fear of abandonment, or fear of rejection, or fear of being victimized, our fear of just being ordinary, our fear that someone's going to think we don't know what we're doing, all of those pieces. And so from that fear, we create the shell. For me, if you're afraid of being vulnerable, then you simply just aren't. So my shell is built of control, right? Sense of strength, an image that I have my stuff together all the time. Don't show the underbelly if you can avoid it. Yours might be different. Maybe your anger or your shell is made of anger, and that's what keeps people distant, keeps you feel protected. Maybe it's withdrawal. Maybe it's this need to be successful all the time, need to be right, or the need to fight even. So what happened to me is that this shell that I built around the pureness of who I am as a human being in order to protect myself from the world, turns out all it really did was separate me from it. Because it worked when I was little, doesn't work anymore. And it took, for me, a new family, especially children, to help me see that and begin to recognize it and to decide if I wanted to do anything different, if I was willing to let God begin to change that about me. Because what I discovered, again, was that this shell actually didn't protect me, it simply separated me. And not just from other people, but from myself, who I really am. Because the truth is, please don't let this get out, but the truth is that I am actually a puppy on the inside. That is not my first, thing I cast into the world. But I have a soft underbelly that actually brings out the very best of who I am. But it takes so much courage for me to allow that to be seen by other people. This is the part of my life, this need to be powerful and in control and separate. This is the thing God wants me to hate about my life. God wants me to hate that part of my life so much that I can keep the thing that's true and that's real. The thing that will change the quality of my life at its core if I let it. Now, the truth is that my own experience, I don't think, is unusual. This is painful stuff and scary stuff. Because to me, again, because it's my thing, it feels so vulnerable. And my ego has told me that if I do it, I'm going to die. And there's the hook. When Jesus says, if you want to keep your life, you've got to lose it. I honestly believe that this is what Jesus is talking about. If we want to keep our life in God, if we want to keep a life that's worth living, if we want to keep a life that is abundant the way Jesus promised and be in relationship with people, we've got to let this part of us die. And that is work, and it is hard, and it is possible. You know that grain of wheat, the entire purpose, the entire reason for being is to die so that something more can be made of it. Maybe that's our purpose too. It's to constantly let go of the pieces of us that we hang on to so tightly, to let them die so something more can happen. This seed becomes something more abundant than it could ever imagine. This grain of wheat becomes something more abundant than it could ever imagine. And and it offers us more life than we can imagine.